Hi, welcome to Homeschool with Lani. Today is our first day of school. Today we have our little special guest who will be joining us every day. JR, Marceli, and Michael. We're going to start our new unit and we are learning about ancient Greece. And in order for us to get started, the first thing I do with all of our lessons is make a KWL chart. And what that stands for is what we know, want, and learn. So the first part we're going to fill out is what we know. And we're going to ask questions so that way we could get started on our unit on what we already know. What we want to know will be the next part we'll fill out. And that's the part where we are going to write down all the things that we want to learn. So things that we don't already know or we want to know more about, and that will go right here. And then what did we learn? That will be filled out at the very end of our unit. And it will be a combination of if we learned more from what we already knew and if we got to all of our goals on what we wanted to know. So, are y'all ready?
Yes.
What do we know about ancient Greece? I knew you were going to raise your hand. All right, well, let's start with JR. JR, do you know what ancient Greece is? No? Okay, so if your child or you, this is your first time doing any type of subject and you don't know, that's okay because then your want will be filled out more. And it's okay if you don't know anything, but we've been doing ancient Greece for a while, so we know a little bit. Sally, tell me what you know.
Ancient means like really, really old.
Ancient means really, really old. Yes, it does. Michael, do you remember anything?
Why do they not have hands?
That's something you want to know. Okay, well, we'll get to that one in a minute. Anything else that you know, Marceli? Is that the only one that we know?
In ancient Greece, they used to tell stories.
They used to tell stories
about stuff that used to happen in the village.
Okay, very good. They used to tell stories. And those stories, what we know them now is mythology. All right, so let me give you all a couple of books. So these are some ancient Greece books that we got at Barnes & Noble's. Even if we didn't want to take them, if you go to Barnes & Noble's and you just use it as a field trip and just go and look at books that they have, you can do that. They'll go through books and they'll look for things that they want to know.
I want to know why they make statues but gold.
How were they gold? How did they make gold statues?
Mm-hmm. How do they make a house out of a horse? They do have knights.
What is that? Are you talking about night and day, or you're talking about night what?
Knights that fight.
Knights that fight. Are they knights or are they soldiers? What are those?
I think they're knights or soldiers.
They're soldiers. They're the Greek army. You want to know about their army? Okay.
How can people understand them writing?
Oh, is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, right there.
How do they make pans and cups out of people?
Have you found art on all of them?
Not, oh yeah, but just some, like this much.
Yeah.
Like that much? Okay. So art on pottery is what it is.
Use tools for frisbees.
Tools for frisbees. That's not a tool for a frisbee. It looks like
He has a big, strong thing, and he throws it, and whoever can make the farthest wins.
And what is that called?
It's called. It's just like somebody running and jumping into the sun.
Okay. And what are those called? Olympics. The Olympics. So see, that was another thing that you knew. Ancient Greeks had the Olympics.
Hey, look! I found more.
What is your question, Mikey?
Do gods live in here?
That's a good question. So their buildings, were there buildings for, does that look like it was a building for someone to live in or
Yes.
work in?
No, to live in.
It looks like it's a building to live in?
For God. Remember when
For
we saw
their gods, yeah.
movie?
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. So was it a building for people?
No, it's a building for statues.
For statues.
It's
Okay.
only
Look,
one
there's
statue
everywhere.
of the god.
Okay.
Look,
So we
there's
want
everywhere on here.
they have them everywhere. Okay, so why did they build
From right here, I can see fish and some things like that. And they also eat some food, some squids.
Oh, I want to know why. Do they have
Yeah.
a bull?
You got it?
I mean, human out of a horse. His whole body is human, but his head is a horse.
Okay, you want to know
What do they wear?
why do they have those?
Yes.
Do you remember what they're called?
I forgot. I don't know.
Mom.
Was that in real life or was that in their stories?
What? In a story.
So it's part of their mythology.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, Jan.
What do they wear?
What did they wear? Okay.
Mama.
Yes. Very good. So you saw some of their clothes. Okay. What
Yes,
did
but-
they wear?
I want to ask why. Why do the boys get white and the girls get kind of a dark pink? I want to ask that.
You want to ask that too? Okay. What did their colors of clothing mean?
Yeah, and some wear blue clothes.
I want to know what is this?
It's kind of like a battle, right? A battle thing. I have that somewhere. Yeah, battlefield.
It looks like it. Okay.
Yeah, it did.
They have elephant. I mean, what is it called? Elephants.
Olympics.
Olympics.
How do you
Olympics.
know?
Because look, this tough thing, it's what they do. But I want to know why we can't understand them handwriting.
We got that down about their writing.
See, they're punching like.
Do any of those letters look familiar?
Well, some do. W. K,
Mom, I know what is this.
O H.
So they have some of the same letters as us?
Yes.
A little bit the same?
You see, there's a W.
Mom, I know what
there's
is
O.
this.
That's
What
a
is it?
K,
It's
E,
for people
O.
to see in elliptics or they're fighting on there.
That could be what that is for.
Cause see, there's seats for everybody.
What is? Do we have anything like that today?
No.
We don't have a place where we can see a sport and we
Oh,
sit
yeah,
and
yeah.
watch. Yeah.
Wait.
Okay, so do we know what time we're talking about?
In 8065.
An 8065.
I don't know.
Sally.
How they made instruments weird. The flute was made of bamboo,
The flute.
and then this
Oh, so
one
they
was
have
made
music
of wood.
instruments. Did they play music instruments?
Yes.
They did. They had music.
When they told scary stories in the village, they used to play the instrument.
I think we have enough questions of what we're going to ask. So if you have an older child who's in high school or middle school, of course, doing that type of chart
Wait,
is
real quick.
too kiddish for them. What? So the purpose of doing this for any age group, even if you have a middle school child or a high school child, is so that way you can get your ideas and your goals and start setting up what you want to do. So you want to see what you already know, so that way you kind of keep on going into that, into those subjects. So if there's more that you need to know, and then you want to get out the stuff that you want to start learning. And like I said, they'll kind of overlap with some of the things that you already know. But the main point is that at the end, you want to have your learned chart filled out with if you met all your goals, and maybe along the way you learned things that you didn't even think of asking because you didn't even know that they had. Right now, what we're doing is just setting up small little goals so that way we can get started. This book right here, the History Pockets, you can get these at Barnes & Nobles. You can find them sometimes at half-price bookstores. You can order them online. But this book has everything that we're going to go through, and they make pockets, and this is really good, and it has grades 4 through 6 on here. But of course, we always kind of bring everything down so I can read to the kids. Remember that no matter what age your child is, they're always eager to learn. So just because something says grades 4 through 6 does not mean that I can't teach the first, second, and third grader out of it. Read for them and let them practice their reading. And of course, if you have a high school student, or someone above 8th grade, they can always use the internet to find stuff and make their own and kind of just use this as a guideline. We started reading Percy Jackson, and in the Percy Jackson books, he talks about mythology and he finds out that he's a demigod. So all of the mythology is really the most interesting part of ancient Greece if you're a kid right now. Yes, it does take a kid 20 minutes to read probably the whole page. But if you're the parent and you're reading to them, you could get through chapters a day. You could bring out the books whenever you have time. It doesn't have to just be at bedtime. We read, or we try to read when we get home or while they're taking a shower, and you're in there just making sure that they're not doing stuff that they're not supposed to, with the little ones, of course. You could read to them when everybody's settled down right after dinner. You could read. If your child is older while you're cooking dinner, that would be a good time for them to read to you if you have that middle school child. And of course, high school kids. We love the books. No matter what age you are, you're going to fall in love with them. Mythology is all through their ancient Greece history. So the reason why they do certain things, the reason why they believe they did certain things, had to do with a lot of the stories that they told and were handed down. So it is. I was thinking that we would do certain subjects into it, but I think we're just going to throw mythology wherever we see that why they did certain things. Because that would just make more sense instead of doing it all in one section. So in this History Pockets book, it starts off with ancient Greece and an introduction to ancient Greece. So the first pocket that they'll be making will be their history. And some of the questions that they first asked was, where did they live? And how did they make homes? So this is a map of ancient Greece that's in this book. And it shows the different areas that they were in. But let's get out your little kitty globe. We live in North America.
We live here.
Yeah. So is it near us?
Whoa.
No.
How would we get there?
We
Use a boat.
We'd have to use a boat. Why do you say we use a boat?
We need a boat to get here.
I
Okay.
would need a plane.
Or a plane. Do you think that they had planes in ancient time?
No.
No? Did they have a boat?
No.
They didn't.
Yes.
Did they have a boat?
Yeah, they have boats.
Are you sure?
Yeah, they have boats to sail across the sea to get squids and fish.
Do we know where this place is now?
Yes.
We have an idea
Yes.
of where it's at? Okay. So this map is inside the book, and this is where you would make a copy of this and let them color it, because all of this book ends up being where you tear it out. And of course, if you have one child, that one child would keep the page, but if you have multiple children, then you'd make copies of it so that they can each make their own folders for it. So each kid will be getting a map to do. On the next side, it's a timeline, and the timeline gets filled out, and you also get to fill in some of the parts that are in here. It has some of them set up, and then as you read, you can start filling in those things. Remember when we were talking about their art? The art that we find now, that when they start digging and the stuff that they found, what does that tell us? When they find art, that tells us a little bit about their history, right? Mm-hmm. So when they don't find stuff, it doesn't show what's going on
In ancient Greece.
in ancient Greece. So there's a time where we are going to find in our timeline that they call the Dark Ages. And that time, they didn't find any artifacts. They didn't find anything that they could use to tell us about their life in that time. So there's a good section that we're not going to see anything. And then it goes back into when they started to find that they got out of that time, and they started building again. They started making art again, and we'll see what all of that means. So their art is pretty much, it tells us their history, right? Okay, so if it was destroyed, what happens?
We don't know anything about ancient Greece and how
And what happened during that time?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the time that's lost.
But if they dig too hard, they might break it since it's really fragile.
Yeah, if they dig too hard. So what do they use?
They use softly things to get into it.
Okay, so tell me something about their sculptures. How do you think that they made those?
Rock.
Out of rocks? But how did they do that? So if I give you a rock, you would be able to make me a face?
No.
No.
We
So
need more rocks.
you mean, so did they put a bunch of little rocks together to make it, or do you think they just used one big rock?
They might have used it out of they got some big rocks and they're worm flapped, so they just used some clay and rolled it down.
Some clay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was
That's a good idea.
thinking that they got fire and melt the rocks, and then they drew faces.
Does fire melt rocks?
Yes, they do.
Fire melts rocks.
No,
That's a new
fire
one.
holds rocks together.
Together.
Really?
Yes, that's what we see on TV. That's what we see
Okay.
on TV.
Yeah.
Or maybe they
Scub it with fire.
When you do that, what are you doing?
you're making a face,
But what is that? What tools are you using?
kind of like a screwdriver and a little hammer. You just knock.
Okay.
They scope it. Now they can make the statues.
So they had to be pretty creative to do that, didn't they?
But they didn't know how to make arms at the time, so they made
They
it
didn't. Well, that's what you think. We're gonna find out why they
Look.
don't have arms.
like this.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
they
because
do
how
it?
would they be able to make a face and they couldn't make an arm? I think they had arms. Then something happened to their arms, and we have to find out what happened to their arms.
Maybe when the soldiers took over, they tore the statues apart.
See, you did not say that when we were asking, what do we know? What soldiers are you talking about?
The soldiers that are trying to take ancient Greece, rule the ancient Greece. The other ones like took the hands apart. Now it can just be a body and some face. I'm sorry I did say that.
I know, you're holding back. So let's talk a little bit about what's in this book, all right? So this says that ancient Greece has been called the birthplace of Western civilization. Do you know what any of that means that I just said?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, no, those are big words, right? And they mean nothing to us until we understand. So the way we live today has something to do with
Ancient Greece.
with the people of ancient Greece,
Well, we
the
live
Greeks.
by food, water, and milk. We live by food, water, and we live by taking care of our bodies and making sure.
Eating healthy.
You have arms.
Eating healthy and eating. And get arms back and eat.
Okay,
Cereal.
but what that part means is the way we write today, because
We
remember
write.
we saw letters in there.
But we write different
We-
in ancient Greece.
We do write different, but somewhere they started to make up the alphabet that we started to transform and make today. Okay, but they did write on paper, and that's how we know some of their stories and some of their history. Remember, people would tell the stories, somebody had to write them down, and they did write them on paper, and we'll talk about that and talk about what happened to them. So that's that first sentence that I said that meant nothing to us. That's what it means. That today, the way we are shaped, the things that we do today, are some of the things that we took from the ancient Greeks, like sports, the Olympics. Bless you.
Thank you.
Are you ready? What kinds of things that they do in the Olympics back then that we still do today?
Well,
They do the
it's
thing.
just like jumping across, like, and then it's just like the frisbee. Whoever throws the farthest wins. Whoever wins gets a trophy
Not a trophy.
or something.
What do they get?
They get a necklace or ring or some
Our money.
They get a gold medal. Yeah. Oh, did I say your answer? Yes. I'm sorry. They do. They get a gold medal. And back then they would get a gold. They wouldn't get a gold medal, but they got food for the year, for the rest of the year.
That's when they win.
Or it might have been for life, but we'll find out. Yeah, that's what they would win instead of gold medals. Now they get gold medals and they get money. Our show is going to be aired daily, and you will get to see parts of it. And we also have a drop-in center at Fantasyland where you and your child could come in and use the resources that we have, look up stuff, be able to look up stuff, and I'll be there if you have any questions. If you're new to homeschool, I'll be there to answer any questions that you have or help you look in the right direction. Now, like I said, we are going to start on ancient Greece, but that doesn't mean that that's where you have to start. If you'd like to, you can follow us. If you have a different subject that you had already started, because some people started before, some people don't stop homeschooling, they just keep on going. But if there's a unit that you already started, you could just kind of follow along with us and see what we're doing. We're going to do different subjects every day, different ideas every day. We won't always just stick to doing the ancient Greece stuff. We might do math, or we might go over some language arts stuff. So don't forget to log on with us, and don't forget about using this with your younger kids. And like I said, with your older ones, they can do the same thing. They could keep it in their binder so that they could always look back to have ideas of what they're supposed to do. And like I said, these have little pockets, so you can go ahead and what we wrote and talked about, they could go and you just stick them right in there. And this, I just glued them on with some sheet protectors like this, and we just cut off the edges so that they don't show. Make your board, it could look like this. You could do it on a poster board if you'd rather use just your dry erase. But don't forget, you want to write down what they know, what they already know, what they want to know, and in the end we'll go over what they learned. If you at least read 20 minutes every day with your kid, that just gets their brain stimulated, they get moving, and then pretty soon they'll start reading to you, and that's a really good time. We're doing the Percy Jackson books, and in honor of Percy Jackson, we celebrated his birthday on August 22nd. So for those of you that want to know a little bit more about Percy Jackson, Rick Riordan has a website, and you can see about all the demigods and all the gods, and start to get to know who they are. So that way, as we go along in this, you'll see why we're learning certain things and what they believed back then. So thanks for tuning in with us. We hope to see you again.